Oh, people from all over the country, California, Ohio, New Jersey, Michigan,
Woohoo!
North Carolina, Georgia, Idaho, Massachusetts. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to episode 4 of Swatch and Learn. Thanks so much for tuning in today. My name is Stephanie Sheridan and I'll be your host, along with Lisa Ruble, the editor of the Fat Quarterly. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
We also with us today have Rachel Rossi, who is a fabric designer, pattern designer, and does all things quilty. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
And we have Jen Wagner. She is a pattern designer in Las Vegas, correct?
That's right. Hi, everyone.
Just so you all know, the Fat Quarterly has been in print for over 25 years as a way of showing our amazing fabrics and sharing them directly with you, the consumer. This is our fourth episode of Swatch and Learn, where we talk about all the fun and exciting projects that you find in each issue. So this is the issue. Some of you may not have received it yet. It was shipped out and it's on the way. So if you haven't gotten yours yet, it's coming. But you can consider this a sneak peek of the projects and everything that's going to be in it. A few things, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have a question during, my lamp fell over, the joys of live, right? Um, if you have any questions during the episode, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box that you see along the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end. And with that, we're going to start talking about the fabrics that we chose for this issue of the Fat Quarterly. We chose the Fluidity collection and we paired it with our Marble Earth Basics. They're both full of deep saturated colors with just a hint of metallic shimmer. So first we're going to play a little video for you showing you the fabrics and then I'll tell you a little more about them. Okay, so those were the fabrics, and I see some people just got their Fat Quarterly issues. And for those of you that haven't gotten it yet, it's on the way. So I'm going to do a share screen to show you more about the fabrics. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So trying to get my mouse down here where it needs to be. Okay, there we go. So the first collection that we chose to work with is called Fluidity. It is by Marta Cortese, and there are 9 SKUs in the collection. You can see some of them here in this picture. It is a creative, imaginative, and innovative collection with a unique abstract print on it, and it comes in two sizes. The first is the large script. As you can see there, it's in different colors, and there's three SKUs with the larger print script. And then there's also a smaller print script, and these are on darker backgrounds. And we paired Fluidity with our marbled earth basics. There's 16 SKUs in this collection, ranging from a light gray all the way to a dark charcoal. My personal favorite are the teals and turquoises, but those are always my favorite colors in any collection. And in both of these collections, we do have pre-cuts available. There is a 9-piece fat quarter bundle of Fluidity, and then there's the full range of base of pre-cuts for the Marbled Earth collection. You can see there a 10 by 10 pack, a strippy set, a 5 by 5 pack, and a fat quarter bundle with all 16 colors. And let's take a look at some of the projects that you can create with these collections. So the first one is called Marble Floor. It was designed by Joni Holton. It's a nice big throw-sized quilt, and that is a free pattern that you can find on our website, which is benartex.com. And next up we have Top Notch, which was designed by Andy Knowlton of A Bright Corner. Again, a nice sized throw, and really pretty with those solid black accents. And then we have two other projects. The Fluid Nooks and Crannies, designed by Sarah Lister, which is a runner and placemat set. There's 4 placemats, and that is by ladybugdesign.com. And lastly, we have the Tiffany bag, designed by Sally Tomato, which is a really beautiful way to showcase that large print. So again, this is Fluidity by Marta Cortese, and you can visit our website to see more information about all of these fabrics and the projects. I'm going to stop my share. Okay, so there's all the beautiful fabrics. So one of the projects in this issue was designed by editor Lisa Ruble. Lisa's also a fabric designer and a pattern designer and a very, very busy woman. So, the Marbled Squares quilt, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can see I have it hanging up on the wall behind me here. And as I've mentioned in other Swatch and Learns, I've been the editor of the Fat Quarterly since 2000, I think 15. So I've had the opportunity to design a lot of projects with 5-inch squares of all different styles of fabric that Benartex puts out. So it's always that's always my first challenge is to come up with something that showcases the fabrics themselves and is different from what we've done in the past and really just sort of speaks to the, the energy that the fabric puts out. And so for this particular combo of the marbled earth and the fluidity, these squares are so beautiful on their own with that marbling in them, and the two go together really nicely. And so I wanted to do a design that left the squares as their full 5-inch size so that you could really see all of the patterns in them. And at the same time, there's a lot going on in those fabrics in terms of choosing something that would be the background and then coming up with some sort of boundary, for the borders and that type of thing. So today I'm going to walk you a little bit through my design process as I worked to come from starting with the squares to the quilt that you see behind me. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Oops. I pushed the wrong button. Slideshow. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see that? Okay, fantastic. So I started out here with a photo of the project from our photo shoot. And you can see the magic of cropping because if you look over on the right, you can see around the corner from that wall we were working on is the kitchen and I don't know if it's a juicer or a coffee mixer or a food processor, but something there. So you can see the magic of cropping takes whatever our background might be and just deletes it so that all you see in the photo that's in the issue is the quilt and the pretty surroundings for it. So this is where I started with a design idea. I had identified that cream and black script print as what was going to be my neutral for the design because it had the most contrast with the most number of fabrics in the quilt. And so I just started out saying, okay, what happens if I do rows that alternate the squares and rectangles of that neutral and see how it all looks together? Because similar to that free pattern that you saw by Joni Holton, which I think was called Marble Floor, that's kind of what I kept seeing when I looked at these fabrics. That whole idea of a beautiful, marble tile type floor that you'd see in a cathedral or a museum or a train station or something like that. And so this is where I started. And when I start, I also will say, if you look at this and go, gosh, why are some of the colors overlapping? When I'm working on the design, the last thing I do is figure out the exact color placement of each of the squares because it's more efficient to do it that way. So what you're looking at here are all ones before I'd finalized the placement as I'm looking at the greens that are next to each other and the light colors down in the bottom. But this felt really cramped and crowded. So I moved on to adding some more space by putting in horizontal sashing rows between the squares, and then adding in a black solid uh, tiny little border on two, or frame, I guess, on two sides of the square. And by doing that, it gives it a little bit of a dimensional look and also creates a very obvious visual line, I guess, because these fabrics do, have the tendency to blend into each other a little bit. So by adding that black edge on two sides, you get a very definite um, stopping point for your eye and for the fabric itself. And so I liked where this was going, but this still felt a little boring, I guess. So what I did was I shifted every other row. And so basically, the rows are the same and they have sashing between each of the blocks, but then the last sashing piece alternates between being on the far right end of the block row and the far left end of the block row. And that just helps the block stagger a little bit, which is much more interesting for your eye to look at than if it's just in plain straight rows. And so at this point I said, okay, I like this. It's simple, but it's graphic, shows off the fabric really well. And so this was the design that I decided to move forward with. And so I want to just take a minute to talk about directional fabric. As a quilt designer, when I'm given a line to play around with and I see there's directional fabric, it can be a bit of a challenge because depending on how you're using the fabric, you need to pay attention to how those stripes or those flowers or those trees or whatever might be directional, how that fits into the various pieces in your quilt. And with this script fabric, definitely is directional. And so when I first looked at it, so when I design in Illustrator, when I add the fabric in, it all defaults to facing up. And so when I lay it out, everything is facing up, like the picture you see on the right in this screen. And I really liked how that looked because it helped the background kind of just blend into the background and kind of fade away. And so that all of the squares could be sort of the stars of the show. But at the same time, that definitely requires a little more focus and concentration and more complex cutting instructions because you need to cut pieces. Some of them you'll cut, the long way up and down, and some the long way right to left in order to have all of that text be going in the same direction in the finished quilt. So what I did, if you look at the image on the left, is I reoriented the fabric in all the pieces to see what it would look like if I hadn't done that directional cutting. And you can see in general, it's very much the same quilt, but the background is a little busier, a little messier, and sticks out a little bit more. And so, based on that, I decided to stick with having everything cut directionally so that I could have that more fluid background that you see on the right, where everything is going in the same direction. And you'll see that when you look in the Fat Quarterly, that there are instructions in there, a little diagram that shows you how to do the directional cutting so that your text all goes the same direction. And with directional fabrics, sometimes, it's worth it to put that extra effort in. And a lot of times, especially if, say, you're doing half square triangles, it's a lot easier just to let that directional fabric kind of go with the flow. But in this case, I felt like it did make a difference. So I did take that extra step to make it all directional. So with that figured out, then I moved on to choosing the borders and the binding for this quilt. Now, a couple things that were in my thought process. First of all, I knew this was a fall issue, so I was looking for a color combination that not necessarily that screamed fall, but something that, had some fall vibes to it. I also knew that I wanted to use one of the Fluidity prints for the inner border as well as for the binding, because those do read a little bit more as solid and they make a nice visual break up against those marbled prints that I have, that marbled print I have in the outer border. So I needed to look for a combination that worked together of one of the darker Fluidity prints and then one of the marbleized prints for the border. So this was the first one that I tried. And then I decided I'd just see what the charcoal looked like, because I already had the solid black in framing those blocks, and I thought maybe that would be nice to have that black sort of echoed in the outer border. And then I tried a completely different inner border with the blue from Fluidity, because I wanted to try that, I call it orange, but let's see, what is it actually called? Oh, it's actually called red in the collection. But that orangey red color, thinking that with fall, that was a really nice seasonal choice. And so I considered that one, but ultimately, like Stephanie, I too lean towards the blues and the teals. And so this is the combination that I ultimately went with, using the dark red for the Fluidity script, because it created such a nice contrast with that beautiful tealish blue marble for my border. And so that is the quilt that you see in your issue and that you have the instructions to make. And then just one more picture. This was the second setup we did during the photo shoot. And that the size of the quilt this is, it's really nice to be able to just throw over a chair for the photo, and you can still see the chair, you can see, a decent part of the design, and then working in, some additional props to it as well. And so that is how Marbled Squares came about.
Thanks, Lisa. Oh,
Yep.
and we have a question that I think you can probably answer or maybe show now. Somebody
Okay.
asked, what did you use for the back?
I don't remember. It is, I believe it's washed wood.
Okay.
The cream or a beige version of washed wood. When I'm making, well, any quilt, with Benetex fabric, but particularly for the Fat Quarterly, I tend to lean hard into the wide backs, because then I don't have to take that extra step of piecing a backing. And so when it's a collection that does not have wide backs along with it, there's, a number of great blender prints, more neutral ones in wide backs, and washed wood is one of my favorites because it's got a little texture, but it kind of goes with everything. So if I were making it, if I was going to piece it and making it out of this, I would definitely go with the same as the border because this is my favorite color in the line.
It's my favorite one in the line too.
I know you and I have similar taste.
We do indeed. Although I like to throw some purple in, so I think Jen and I have similar tastes too, seeing the quote behind her.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much for all the information about the marbled squares quilt. And we're going to take a short break right now, and we're going to put a poll up on the screen. For those of you that are here with us live, let me know um, what type of projects are you looking to make for the holiday season? And if you answered this question, we're going to choose someone that answered the question as a winner of a fabulous fabric prize, and we'll announce that at the end of the session. Lisa, have you started any Christmas holiday quilting?
Ha 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 ha. No. I have been I'm about to switch into that mode, but if you see on my wall behind me next to the marbled squares quilt, I've been Halloween quilting. And so that is my Strippy Improv Halloween pattern using the Spellbound fabric from Mare Sutton. And
Okay.
so I did that as a little quilt along in September and October, and I have a similar pattern for the holidays. So I will be getting ready to start showing that after the 31st. So I'm a no holidays till after Halloween kind of girl.
I'm the same way. Let's celebrate one holiday at a time.
Absolutely.
All right, so the second project in this issue is called the Mini Moon Pillow, and it was created by designer Jennifer Wagner of Snapdragon Quilting. Jen, do you have any tips and tricks on how to make this for our viewers?
I sure do. I have prepped a demo here so I can show you exactly how I did it. Oh, I can't hear you, Stephanie. Are you still talking?
I am. I'm
There
unmuted
you go.
now. So, yeah, if you would please share with everyone exactly how to make that amazing pillow.
Absolutely. And I have to say thank you, Stephanie and Benertex for having me. And of course, to everyone who's shown up today, it's fabulous that you're here. And Mini Moons is one of my favorite patterns that I've written because it's really fun to make. And I find that so many quilters are afraid of curves, and this pattern makes them so easy. So I'm going to show you how I did this. First off, I'm taking the pre-cut 5x5 squares of the marbled earth that are in the Fat Quarterly. And I have to say, I really love the blues and the purples, just like Lisa and Stephanie. So that's what I'm showing you with today. But I did use all of the colors in the pillow. And so we start with our pre-cuts, and we're going to make half square triangles. And I like to do that using a Creative Grids, the little seam guide ruler. And I take a marking pen and I just mark on each side of this ruler so that I have my stitching lines. And then I'm going to take two squares and I'm going to put them right sides together and then just sew on those lines and cut in the middle so that I have half square triangles. And for this project, having my seams pressed open works best. And I really like to use a little pressing bar for this because it makes it easier not to get my fingers burnt. So when I put it on here, I think of it, for those of you who have done sewing, it's like a ham. So I think of this like a quilter's ham. It helps me get in there. And then I just take my iron and I can get in and press that open really easily. Then I'm going to take some freezer paper. And freezer paper is something that we can get at the grocery store, but I find that it's really floppy and flimsy. So I actually really like to use this heavy duty version. It is kind of like a cardstock, so you can see that it's not flimsy. It makes a really sturdy template. I forgot to tell you, I also made a half square triangle out of the Fluidity fabric. And I liked this smaller Fluidity print because it doesn't have a lot of space in the pillow. So I was worried that the bigger script would be too big for this small space. So I went with the smaller one. And I love that these fabrics both have the gold accents. And so I added this gold fabric, and you told me what it was. It, oh, it's called Precious Metals Gold Rush. And it really brings out the metallic accents in both of the fabrics, but it also gives the eye a place to rest because these fabrics have so much going on. I was worried if I didn't add something that appeared solid, it would be too busy. So I've got another half square triangle made out of the metallic gold and the Fluidity in black. And then I get my freezer paper template and I iron this to the back of my half square triangle. The difference between the regular freezer paper and the heavy duty stuff is that you do have to iron this a little bit longer too because it's thicker. And so sometimes people say, Jen, it's not sticking. Just give it a little bit more time with a really good hot iron. So I'm going to iron this down and then I'm going to cut a hole in the middle and start clipping it. So I get my scissors and I just come around and I clip all the way around, creating these little tabs that I can pull back up against the edge and starch and press them into place. And so I'm using my freezer paper to give me a perfect circle before I even have to do any sewing. So that's why it makes these circles just so easy to do. Once I'm happy with how my circle looks, I like to check it from the front and the back. Then I just simply peel off my freezer paper. And the great thing is I used one template to make all 16 blocks in my pillow. So it's nice because it just irons over and over again. Okay, so now I have my circle, and then I'm just going to get my other half square triangle and fill up my window there. Then we get my buddy Elmer. I love Elmer because he's cheap, he's washable, especially right now with all the kids back in school, you can get it in the stores. But he does make a mess, and so I like to rein him in using a little fine line glue tip on my bottle, and I put a little bead of glue all the way around. And the nice thing is, while the glue is wet, I can still adjust this and line it up and get it just right. And that's how I make these diagonal seams match perfectly every time. I let the glue hold them in place. And then this part is actually like my favorite part because I don't know if you can see on the pillow, but there's no top stitching. And so how the heck did I sew these two layers together? This is the magic part. Because everything is glued together, nothing moves, nothing shifts, and all I have to do is sneak underneath one of the corners and I am going to sew directly in my fold. And I go slow, I take my time, I use an open toe foot so it's really easy to see that fold. Sometimes on some fabrics the fold is hard to see, and so you can always go in and you can mark it too before you go and sew it. But once I get all the way around, I am going to have a perfectly smooth circle. There's no visible stitching on the front, but it is all here on the back hiding in that fold. So that's the basics, the tips and tricks on how to make. It's a technique called reverse applique. Sharon Schomburg designed this technique. I learned it from Sue Hines, and I love it. I just keep playing with it. And so I took 16 of these blocks and put them together to make my pillow. And the other really fun thing is basically this is a half square triangle with a hole punched in the middle. And so I can take these blocks and I can rotate them and get new designs. And so I've got one here made in Botanica. And so you can see I just turned them so that I got stripes. But I really, really wanted to put a new design in the Fat Quarterly for you guys. And so I came up with this diamond design. This is not in the pattern. You only get it in the Fat Quarterly. And so it's a fun new way to make a mini moons. And then I was thinking, well, now I've got all these seams on the back, and I was worried that when I shoved a pillow in there, they would move because I didn't quilt my front here. And so all I did is I took an iron-on interfacing and I ironed the whole back side with just this lightweight, basically just a stabilizing layer. And so that way, when I take the pillow in and out, all the seams lay flat and it stays looking this good. So
Awesome, Jen. Yeah, I love that technique. I'm going to have to try it one of these days. When I when I have more time to sew, I definitely want to try that technique out.
I love it so much that I just keep writing patterns using variations on this method. And this is my brand new one, my Riley Michelle pattern, and it does curves the same way. And so it's so easy to make curves this way.
Right? And what you used a Benartex collection for the Riley Michelle.
I sure did. It's called Go with the Flow by Anne Lore. And it's so beautiful. Like it has these, like the floral print in it was my favorite. And so I actually used that on the back. I know you guys have so many amazing wide backs, but I love this print so much I had to put it on the back.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jen. And we'll get to some of these questions. I know there's some questions that came up. Just a reminder, please put all of your questions in the Q&A box so that I know where to look at the end of our presentations so we can get your questions answered for you. And now we're going to go on to our next feature. Have you ever wondered what happens with all of our beautiful fabrics before they arrive at your local quilt shop? We have a very large warehouse in Rhode Island and an amazing staff that preps and packs the collections for shipment. We took a short video tour of our warehouse and we're going to share that with you now.
Every quilt begins with fabric, and behind every bolt of Benartex fabric is a story of creativity, care, and craftsmanship. Welcome to the Benartex warehouse in Cranston, Rhode Island, the heart of how our fabrics reach quilt shops and makers across the country. Here, in over 60,000 square feet of space, thousands of bolts line the shelves, from timeless basics and flannels to our newest designer collections. Every print, pattern, and color you love starts its journey right here. At Benartex, fabric isn't just stored, it's cared for. Each bolt is inspected, organized, and handled with precision to make sure it arrives in perfect condition. Whether you're a quilt shop stocking up or a quilter waiting for that special collection, our Cranston team helps make it happen. And it's not just bolts. Every Benartex pre-cut you see, from strip pies and charm packs to fat quarter bundles and layer cakes, is made right here in Cranston. Our skilled team cuts, folds, and packages each one with care, ensuring consistent sizing, perfect presentation, and the quality quilters trust. So when you open a Benartex pre-cut, you're holding a piece of this very place, precision made in Rhode Island. From picking and packing to labeling and loading, this is where creativity meets logistics. Every day, shipments roll out to quilt shops, distributors, and online retailers, ensuring quilters everywhere have access to the quality and designs that make Benartex a trusted name in the sewing world. It's more than a warehouse, it's a hub of inspiration. Behind every order is a team passionate about fabric, color, and community. So the next time you pick up your favorite Benartex print or see a new collection arrive at your local quilt shop, remember, it all started here in Cranston, Rhode Island, where every yard is prepared with pride, ready to inspire your next masterpiece.
So there was just a quick sneak peek of our warehouse facility in Cranston, Rhode Island. We have an amazing warehouse staff that work very hard to get all of these beautiful fabrics to the quilt shops so that then you can go buy them. All right, so one of our feature products in this issue is called the Big Stitch Toolkit, and it is from Rachel Rossi. Rachel is a fabric designer, a pattern designer, and like I said before, does all things quilty. So thanks for joining us today, Rachel.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
And can you tell us a little bit more about this big stitch binding?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned big stitch binding in our virtual fabric show last week, and a lot of questions came in of like, what is big stitch? What is it? So we're gonna start there. So if we can flip over to my other screen so you can see the quilts, that would be great. Perfect. So on a standard typical quilt, when you get to the binding, you're pretty well ready to be done with this project. And typically you'll do binding with an invisible stitch. So nothing to see, like you take pride in hiding your stitches. But big stitch binding is the exact opposite. In big stitch, you want everyone to see your work. So it can be a simple straight stitch, and it can be on the front of the quilt or the back. So on this one, the back is plain, but the front has big stitch. You can do more advanced stitches. This one's just like little hash marks. And you can do different variations on stitches. So for example, I have a zigzag stitch here. Pretty simple and straightforward, just up and down, back and forth. But then you can do variations on it to make it a little bit more interesting. So this is a variation on that zigzag where I'm kind of separating those stitches. And so there's a ton you can do with this. You can do different scales, depending on if it's a show quilt or just for a wall hanging. Maybe you just want to do some really big chunky stitches. Maybe it's not getting washed much, so you have the ability to kind of spread them out and make them a little more noticeable. Or maybe it's a quilt where you want to do something really chunky and loud. And so there's just tons of options, but basically Big Stitch is where utility meets embroidery. And instead of keeping it invisible, we're being loud and showing everyone our handiwork. And so I'm going to show you a really quick demo today on how to do that, but essentially we're just using pearl cotton to create these stitches. And pearl cotton is, it's not quite embroidery thread. It is a twisted thread, so it doesn't come apart like embroidery thread would. So let's see if I can get us to focus. So if you can see, there's kind of a twist to it, so it doesn't really come apart. So it's very strong and easy to work with. So I'm going to show you two really simple stitches today. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, maybe, so that you can see. And we're going to be using a milliner's needle. These are my favorite because they're long and strong. And they have an eye that fits this nice fat pearl cotton. So what you do to get started is you do a quilter's knot. And essentially a quilter's knot just creates a really tight little knot at the very end of your thread to secure everything in place. And I'm really proud that I did that on camera and was successful. If that was super fast for you, that's fine. I have videos on how it works that are in slow motion and pretty much any speed that you could need, and you can always rewind and watch again. So what you want to do, this is a little sample of kind of how quilt binding works. So we have our fabric that represents the binding here, and then the white represents your quilt top. This is just a little easier to handle on camera. So what we're going to do is just sneak in through the back of our binding. On a real quilt top, I like to sneak in between the layers of quilt top and batting. And we're just going to start with a really simple straight stitch. So we're going to come up close to the edge of our binding. You can do an 1/8 inch or 1/4 of an inch. And I'm using bright red thread. This would not usually be my preference on periwinkle, but hopefully it makes it easier for you guys to see. And as we go down through our binding, we're just catching the quilt top and quilt batting, and even some backing if you'd like. But what you don't want is to see your needle coming through on the back of your binding. You want the back to be totally plain. And so you're just catching a couple layers as you pull your thread back through. And so the straight stitch is the simplest place to start. So you work your way around the binding, and it's pretty simple. And like I said, variations are fun. You can come back through and do a totally different color in between, or do a second set above. You can do whatever you want to embellish. The main thing to keep in mind is that when you get to a corner, you really want to make a plan of how you're going to secure that miter that you worked so hard for. So I have this glued down. Sometimes I'm a little bit of an Elmer's glue girl too. So Jen was not alone there. And I get that to stay in place, whether it's a binding clip or Elmer's glue. And then I make a plan of what I want to do. So in this case, maybe I'll create a little kind of X or cross so that way when I start my new set of stitches, the design flows easily. So I'm going to go down, come back up through. And let's see. I'm going to make a plan. So if I go back down through my fabric here, I want it to come out where my new row of stitches will be showing on the next side. So the corners, I would say, are the only tricky spot that you have to keep an eye on. So there I have my last stitch on this row, and now we're going to start our first stitch on the next side. So we have a cute little X. This is why I like the X's. I just think they're precious. And so you could do another X up here if you just want to kind of have a little flare, or you can continue on to the next side. So I'll do one more stitch here and show you a really cute one. I call it the forward slash. So typically I don't switch stitches in the middle of my binding, but if you get bored, why not? So what we do for the forward slash is we come up through the center of our binding, and then we come back down. So while I'm kind of getting my bearings, I'll actually kind of preview where I want that stitch to go. So if I want it a little more diagonal, I'll pull it off to the right, or maybe I want to do something straight up and down. The world is your oyster here. So I'm going to go diagonal. And I'm coming down through the quilt top and back up through the center of my binding. And there I have my little first forward slash. And so I always like to preview my stitch because that's going to help me get a nice consistent angle every time. Because it is easy if you're just trying to work fast, it's easy to get something that's a little wonky. So I preview it, I put my needle in right where I have it previewed, and then come up through the center. So the key here is just working through the quilt top and not coming up through the back of your quilt. So I have a preview and back up through the center. So it doesn't have to be anything complicated to get a really beautiful stitch. So as you can see, like 4 stitches and it's already looking really fun. And even a simple straight stitch can add a lot of character to your quilt binding. So you guys will see this, if you haven't gotten your Fat Quarterly yet, you'll see it on page 5 in the quilting must-haves. It's actually page 5 and number 5. And we're talking about the little toolkit that you can get. So included in that toolkit is a set of milliner needles. These are my favorite. 10 needles in there. Beeswax, which is important for coating your threads. It helps keep them stronger and it actually avoids tangles as you're working. And the little book of Big Stitch Binding. So if you're more of a visual learner like myself, you will find this book to be really helpful. There are QR codes for every single page and every single stitch. So if you want to take a look at how we did the straight stitch again, you'll see a written explanation, a diagram, alternate designs, and then there's a QR code on every stitch that sends you straight to a video tutorial like the one you just saw. And then the last thing in the kit is a roll of ThimTech. And I'll get the package here so you can get that logo in your mind. That's how I remember things. And ThimTech is actually a adjustable thimble tape. So I have really skinny fingers that tend to get, don't tell anyone, get a little sweaty when I'm sewing because usually I have a heavy quilt on top of me. So what you do with this is you twist it around your finger, whichever one that you need. Maybe you push your needle through with your middle finger or your pointer finger, and you just mold it to how you like it. So maybe the end of your needle is really sharp and you need extra layers here. Layer it on. It's really great if you have long nails too, because it works around that. And so this will last a couple weeks. You can pop it off and go eat a snack and put it back on. It's a really great tool. So I decided to include that in the kit as well. If you need to get a kit for yourself, you can click on the link that I'm trying to put in the chat here for you. And you can learn more about big stitch quilting and also grab some of your favorite colors of pearl cotton. And I will hand it back over to Stephanie.
Thanks, Rachel.
No problem.
All right. So you do a lot with pearl cotton. You have pearl cotton thread collections that match your fabrics, correct?
I do, yeah. So I have teamed up with Valdani. They are a incredible thread company, and their threads are so nice to work with that I said I need to have a matching box for every fabric line. So I've had a set of 12 for each fabric line, and I'll have a set of 6 for my next line called Winter Haven.
Fantastic. All right. So we're gonna hold on just a minute, everyone. There we go. Okay. We were waiting for the spotlight took a few minutes to to disappear. So now you can see Rachel's lovely face again. All right, so those are all of our presentations. I'm going to go through and ask some of the questions to our panelists. And let's see. So Karen, you signed up for the Fat Quarterly at the end of August. I'm going to have to double check on that, but I think you should be in time to get the fall issue. Um, but I will double check on that for you. Oh, Lisa, this is a good one for you. How do you decide which lines are featured in the Fat Quarterlies? Oh, you're muted.
I always vow that I'm not going to get caught muted and oops. We start out by looking at the dates of when the fabric is available because we ideally want it to be either a brand new line or a line that's just about to come out so that our Fat Quarterly subscribers are kind of getting a preview, a sneak peek of fabric that will be in their shops. But we also want to make sure that they can get the additional fabric to make the project that we featured. So timing is the first thing we look at. And then we have, I would say, between, I don't know, 2 and 7 or so lines that fit into that time frame and also have the right type of fabric. We aim for, you tend to get about 20 swatches somewhere in there per issue. So we want a line that's got, a good number of swatches. We also then look at what we featured in past issues recently so that we don't, say, have 2 big romantic floral lines in a row or 2 very modern lines in a row. We try to give a lot of variety throughout the year. We give a little bit of thought to the season, but so many of these fabrics kind of work throughout the year. But it's a lot of fun to choose what line we use, and I like to think I have a little bit of sway because I'm making one of the projects. I'll be like, oh, I love that line. Could we use that? And sometimes that helps to make the choice.
Great, thank you. Mary, you said, when are these fabrics available? Actually, these fabrics, Marbled Earth started shipping earlier this year, and Fluidity is just shipping to stores in October. So you should be able to find these fabrics in your local quilt shops now. So Jen, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, can the heavy duty freezer paper be reused for many circles?
Absolutely. So I use just one template to make all 16 squares in my pillow. And I forgot to tell you guys that I am getting these laser cut, and so they'll be available on Monday on my website. They're going to be brand new.
Fantastic. And that was another question is where do you get the heavy duty freezer paper?
I carry all the supplies that I just showed you in my shop, including the pack of freezer paper.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we'll put the link to your shop in the chat unless,
I can do it too.
okay, perfect. And then, oh, and another question for you, Jen. What
Sure.
interfacing did you use?
I used Heat and Bond. It's just
Okay,
the lightweight one. Mhm.
okay.
It's cheap, it's easy. We have
And,
that in the shop too if you want some.
and it's readily available.
It is. I love Notion. So I started quilting when I was so young that I didn't have any money and I couldn't buy all the fun things. So now I buy all the fun things.
I'm the same way. I love to have all the fun things. I may not use them very often, but when I need them, I've got them. Um, let's see. Okay, are the Fat Quarterly fabrics cut in Rhode Island too? Yes. Yes, they cut and package all of our fabrics and put them in their lovely little package with their sticker. So they're all ready for you to use. Um, And then I had a couple questions about the Benartex facilities. No, none of our facilities, neither the office in New York City or the warehouse in Rhode Island, are open to the public. We are a busy working group, so we are not open to the public. Um, does big oh this is for you, Rachel, and you're on mute, so I'll remind you now.
Thank you.
Um, so does Big Stitch take the place of machine stitching?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I did see a couple questions like, oh, I just got excited and missed these parts. So I don't use it to like I don't do the invisible stitch at all on my samples. The only time I would say that you would need to do that is maybe if you're using it on a baby quilt or something that's going to get like washed millions of times or like picked at. But I made a couple little placemat samples with big stitch binding because I like to test everything out. And I have washed them with every load of laundry that I've done for the past 6 months, and it has held up beautifully. And it's not like a nice cold water, delicate cycle, tumble dry situation. It's like my laundry. So they have held up really well, which a lot of people are like, doesn't seem like it would. But no, I just do it instead of the invisible stitch.
Okay.
Yep.
So you sew it, machine sew it to the back and then flip it to the front and then do the big stitch binding.
Exactly. Yep. So
Okay.
it kind of starts out the same, and the only difference is whether you're using that invisible stitch or the big stitch.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Um, and then, oh, what size pearl cotton are you using?
Great question. So I'm using the size 8. Typically it comes at 5, 8, or 12. So 5 if you want something really thick, and 12 if you want just a little detail that isn't too loud. So I'm doing 8 right in the middle. But you can use any of them. And I
Okay.
think there was a question on needle size too. What size milliner needles? I like to
Mhm.
use 1s and 3s because they have the biggest eye.
Got you. And then another question, with the big stitch, are you going into the batting or just into the quilt top?
I go into the batting. But I don't get like I'm a very cozy quilter. Like I don't have a ton of rules, but I do try to get into the batting at least every couple stitches just for that little extra something. So
Fantastic. And Catherine, you're looking for the Autumn Breeze fabric collection. Yes, that should be in stores. There is a store locator on our website. If you go to benertex.com, you can, along the top, you can see the store locator. If you click on that, you can choose the collection you're looking for, and it will tell you shops that are carrying that collection. And I know a few people had some questions about their subscriptions. If you have a problem with your subscription, please send us an email to info@benertex.com, and that will come to us and we will check into anything for you if you're having any problems with your subscription at all. All right, I think I got all of the questions. Oh, one last one. When you fold the binding from the back to the front, how do you get a nice flat corner? And that's that special miter corner that you're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, that's a whole nother demo. So what I can do, because it would really be great to like have the machine and show you, I can put a link to a tutorial that I have that I think would be really helpful. But it's essentially about how you're folding the binding as you're stitching. And I don't know if I could do it well without a visual. So I will post a link to that in the chat if that's good for you guys.
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always the fun part. And I noticed that both Lisa and Jen had a smile and a laugh talking about mitered bindings. Are are you guys as excited as I am when you get it all folded and you look and you're like, "Yes, it came out."
I use Elmer. Then it
Elmer.
stays where my iron and Elmer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's always I honestly, binding is my favorite part of any quilting project. Mainly because it means I'm almost done with that particular project, but there's just something so satisfying about that finish work. Um, but Rachel, I definitely think I'm going to try some big stitch binding on an upcoming quilt, especially one that I have in mind that I want to hang in my living room.
That's
So
so exciting.
I may be trying this.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
Awesome. Well, I think we got through all of the questions and we're getting close to the end of our time together today. So first, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this episode of Swatch and Learn. I hope that you all enjoyed it and learned something new today. I know I learn new things every time I'm a part of one of these shows. And I also want to send a special thank you to Lisa and Jen and Rachel for being here with me today and for sharing all of their expertise with all of you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Um, and now we're gonna see, do we have our prize winner name? Okay, so our winner is Gail Morshell. Gail, you're our winner for this episode. And so we'll reach out to you and we'll get your mailing address and we can get you your prize to you. So we'd also love to see what you create with your swatch packs. You can share them in our Facebook group, which is called Create Inspired Delight, or on any of your social medias, and you can tag us and we can see all the beautiful things that you're creating and we can share those in our stories with our viewers. So I hope everyone enjoyed their time here today, and I hope that you'll join us again for episode 5, which will be in early 2026. We don't have a date yet, but the date will be in the Fat Quarterly, and we will also put it on our socials. So thank you again for coming, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.